Please make sure to go and watch part 1 before you watch this bit. So Nick takes a small blood sample left behind by Zilla and goes for a pregnancy test so that Audrey can finally meet him and they can have a quick swoon. They talk about old times, and after he's still a little sore about her leaving him for proposing, she hits him with an "I'm sorry you feel that way." To be fair, it's been 8 years. He decides to bring her to his current workspace behind the press line and talk to her about everything he's been doing, including everything he studied about Godzilla. In the process, he discovers that Godzilla's pregnant and can reproduce asexually. To be fair, it's gotta be hard to get laid when you're the only kaiju in town. So Max leaves her for a moment to more accurately test. Which is why it sucks so bad that even though she's still down bad and appreciates that he kept all the mementos, she steals a videotape full of data to go with all the information she's been able to get out of him, bringing her story to her editor-in-chief. Back in an army meeting, Nico is finally getting a bit more respect from the army for his work. Hey, good for you! And he informs them of Godzilla's current case of being an individual who has recently laid eggs, and if those eggs hatch into even more asexually reproducing Zillas, that will be a bit of a problem. Unfortunately, the army doesn't really believe him on this theory. Back to Audrey, and her story is on TV. Unfortunately, the king asshole was in earshot when she presented her tape to the station head, and he immediately decided to change the story so that he can pass it off as his own. Bad. Fuck you. Creep. Wanker. Don't steal credit. And to make matters worse, he cites Nico as a source, something Audrey would have hopefully left out. So naturally, the military isn't happy that he spoke to the press, and he is fired. Audrey tries to explain herself to him, but she hasn't really got a good excuse for herself, just an honest explanation. And Nico gets into a taxi to leave town. Victor, however, ain't having it, and follows the cab to try and change... Oh my god, I wrote down Max again. This whole script, I swear to god, I wrote it a good while before I started rewatching the film again for the purpose of this, and I don't know why, I kept on writing Nico's name as Max. God fucking damn it. Anyway, it turns out that the taxi driver is actually Mr. Roach, and he's not really a taxi driver or an insurance man. He's secretly a French Secret Service agent who wants Max's, Nico's, help to find the nest, because the military aren't looking for it, which is weird because they've been so intelligent this whole time. The French are here because it was their test that resulted in Godzilla, and they want to clean up after their mess, subtly if they can. Victor, who has been doing some spying of his own, yes, King, heads back to his marital home to find Audrey crying her eyes out over the whole situation. Yeah, I've been there, honey. You want ice cream? I'll get the ice cream. You want Ben & Jerry's or Haagen-Dazs? Both? Yeah, it's one of those nights. He gives her the down low on the situation, because if she can be there when Max... God damn it, I called him Max again. I swear to God, I've been through the script and I've edited it down to Nico every time, but every time as I start recording it again, I end up getting a bloody Max bomb. Bad. Past. Self. Dumb. Anyway, if she can be there when Nico finds the nest, she can clear his name of any slander. Win-win. I'm going to fucking edit this before I record any more fucking lines, I swear to God. I had Max as Nico's name 4 more times. The French infiltrate Manhattan after they disguise themselves as American Army guys. Audrey and Vic sneaking in their own way. Meanwhile, the military are going to try and use fish as bait to lure Zilla to Central Park. Fool him once, shame on you. Fool him twice, fuck you. Nico and Audrey both find their way underground, and we get a look at Godzilla crawling through his tunnels in an admittedly janky CGI shot. On his way for the army's new trap, where he is very apprehensive over the meal, considering yesterday when food and army guys were in the same place, he got shot at. So he's not going to have those fish without any chips and curry sauce. Fuck that. So he leaves, and the army opens fire, this time with more helicopters and missile launchers. So he heads straight to the river and dives headfirst into the water. How deep is that water supposed to be? Big enough to fit a Godzilla and a submarine in this movie, apparently? Anyway, the subs fire, and Zilla is knocked out, drifting to the depths. Boo! Bad! No! Bad! Fuck you! Nico and Audrey find out where Godzilla laid his clutch of eggs. Madison Square Garden. And there is a hell of a lot of them. And they just started hatching. Aw, they're such cute little things. Luckily, they only eat fish. Unluckily, Nico and the army guys smell like fish because the area has been stockpiled, because Zilla is a very attentive parent. Q being chased by death babies. Babies, come on, there's food right on the floor. You don't have to chase them down. Bad. Naughty. Outside Manhattan, the evacuees want to be let back into the city. Like, right fucking now? I'd say that was unrealistic, but after lockdown, I completely believe people would want to be let back into the city while a giant nuclear lizard is running amok. The French agents regroup and try to order an airstrike, but the phone lines are busy. Is that how that works? They hold the line. Meanwhile, Audrey and Vic escape through some vents, so they're okay. This part does end up trying to invoke the raptors from Jurassic Park a bit, sometimes in very obvious ways. But to be fair, the raptors in Jurassic Park weren't really raptors anyway, they were more Deinonychuses. Deinonychusi? Deinonychus is plural adjective. Anyway, as each group is getting the fuck out, they run into each other. After hearing the phone lines are jammed, probably because of the people trying to get into the city, Audrey has an idea. The broadcast room. The military is keeping an eye on the news after all. Audrey broadcasts her story herself this time, and she and Nick get to reconcile and make amends a bit in the process. Eventually, the army get the memo, so our human characters have to get out in 6 minutes, or they get blown up along with the eggs. So off they fuck. They escape in the nick of time, and the military finally blows up a building on purpose. Hooray! Godzilla notices. Oh no. He notices his babies are dead and he tries to nuzzle one of them. Oh no. He notices Nico, Roach, Vic, and Audrey. Oh no. He knows explosions happen because of humans. Oh no. But bad? Jesus Christ, for the love of God, peg it! So yeah, they jump into the nearest car and run. One last chase. Best boy running them off every other turn. However, as they drive past some army guys, Nick drops off the ID plate from the cab, and O'Neill, one army guy side character that we've seen the whole time, manages to figure out exactly which cab they're in and patches into their specific radio frequency. Together, they formulate an escape route for the human characters, and off they go to the Brooklyn Bridge, and straight into Zilla's mouth. Oh no! They manage to electrocute him with some loose cables, and off they shoot down the Brooklyn Bridge, Zilla in hot pursuit, until he isn't. He gets caught in the second archway, and the suspension cables trap him in place, with jets on the way. And as he struggles, he gets hit with a volley of missiles, and roars in pain. As the jets circle around and hit him from the other side, he lets out another roar, as Nico and his allies clear the bridge and turn to look at the pitiful sight of Godzilla, who makes a point to lean his head so that you can see the wounds on his neck. The music no longer feeling triumphant. And eventually, even though he's no longer restrained, the damage is done, and he lurches forward, collapsing in front of Nico, and we hear his heartbeat and focus on his eyes as the thumping slows down and the life slowly fades from his eyes. Everyone cheers and celebrates. Roach leaves with the tape from Vic's camera. Oh, come on, man, he worked really hard for that footage. And we look back at the burning remains of Madison Square Garden, where one final egg has been left standing, bookending the start of the film. I used to watch this film constantly as a kid, and every time it got to this ending, I'd hope that this time Godzilla would rip free of the bridge. This time when I watched the film, this huge, awesome creature would make it out alive. They'd get better. The jets would miss, or Zilla would destroy them. He'd dive into the water and escape, or stay and make friends with the humans. I'd get to walk into the screen and have a pet Godzilla. Leave me alone. I was 4, 5, 6. It never felt fair that he had to die at the end, that he'd collapse in pain and look directly at Totopoulos. At me. His big, gentle eyes slowly closing as we hear that enormous, thundering heartbeat gradually get weaker and slow down until it stopped. He deserved better. This film is certainly the black sheep of the Godzilla franchise, and I completely understand why. I mean, I could nitpick it like a cynic all day, and yet I will always hold a firm place in my heart for this particular Godzilla. It's probably one of my favourites despite all its flaws. I like the characterization, I like the design, I like the set pieces, I like the effects, I like the stupid script, I like the direction, I like all the poor creative choices. I like Godzilla 1998. And I hope you can find something to like about it too. This film had its own animated spin-off sequel series that had a 2-season run and followed the one surviving hatchling of Godzilla's clutch of eggs. It's worth looking up if you like giant monsters, and Nigel. Maybe I'll do a series retrospective down the line, who knows. I mean, I'll get to see more of this kick-ass design at least. And I'll get to see it fight other giant monsters. The MonsterVerse movies have opened up a precedent for giant monsters, and although we've seen Zilla go up against Godzilla in Final Wars and get immediately annihilated, although Zilla is able to escape the military's weapons and fire powered by his sheer agility and only really gets taken down because he gets caught up and tangled up in the Brooklyn Bridge, really, classic Godzilla is just completely untouchable when it comes to weapons like that, and yeah, even though I love him, Zilla ain't got a chance. I honestly would love to see the current reigning champion go up against a reimagined Zilla the Pretender, the False King, in a giant nuclear kaiju showdown. So, if you're someone who has either never seen it before, or has seen it and doesn't count it as a true Godzilla film, I hope you can sit down and give it a proper chance. If not as a proper Godzilla movie, at least as a monster movie, with something worth watching it for. Who knows? Maybe it's not the end of the world if it does just so happen to be some naive little kid's favourite Godzilla.